All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power, and in this video, we're going to be recapping the men's open bodybuilding portion of the press conference. So this was a little bit different. If you guys saw the classic physique portion that I did earlier, this was not your typical setup where they had all the competitors on stage. In this scenario, they took like a couple athletes from each category and had them kind of just talk to each other. And again, I don't know exactly the reason for that. I don't know if it was pandemic related or if it was just trying to spice things up a little bit. But the first part of the men's open bodybuilding press conference that I thought was interesting was Nick Walker versus Hunter Labrada. That was an interesting choice that they brought those two out. That was kind of the matchup that they made. And Nick wound up coming out and taking off his shirt and hitting some poses. So I think Nick and Breon were the only two guys that actually ended up doing this. So the question I want to ask you guys is, what do you guys think about this? Doing the posing at prejudging, is it a show of confidence? Is it a show of arrogance? Is it a show of insecurity? Do you think it's a good idea to do it at all, or do you think it's better to save it for Saturday night? Because what I noticed was, as they got through all the divisions, whether it was women's, whether it was men's physique, whether it was 212, most everybody said they wanted to save it for Saturday night, except for a select few, Nick and Breon. Personally, I love it. I think it's exciting to have a competitor, whether it be confidence, whether it be arrogance, that's willing to give that kind of preview of the Olympia. That's what's going to sell tickets. That's what's going to sell pay-per-view streams, not just guys awkwardly chatting on stage. So I want to commend both Nick and Breon for having the confidence to do that. But obviously, on the other side of that coin, if everybody did it, then it would make prejudging less exciting. So I think that at least gives us something to look forward to at prejudging. But overall, I think Nick actually looked really good. And one of the things that surprised me is, even though him and Hunter weren't that close to each other on stage, you could see the size difference between Nick and Hunter. I'm not talking about height. They're relatively the same height. Hunter's probably taller than Nick. But you could see there was a visible size difference between Hunter Labrada and Nick Walker. While, you know, Hunter's strong point is kind of the fact that he's got this aesthetic flowing physique, really good structure, really pleasant to look at. He's big too, but not as big as Nick. So that was the big takeaway for me from the Nick Walker and Hunter portion of it. Hunter was very respectful. He was very polite. He chose not to pose. He didn't criticize Nick. He refused to identify any weak points like Bob asked him to. And by the way, while we're talking about it, so many people have asked me, where can I watch the Olympia live? So I'm going to show you guys the website here, because this is the question that I get more than pretty much any other question during the week of the show. So the Olympia will be live at olympiaproductions.com. That is where you can purchase it. To the best of my knowledge, it will not be free. The press conference was free. The Meet the Olympians was also free. So Friday and Saturday shows, those will be available on olympiaproductions.com. That's where you can stream that, and that's where you can watch the official Olympia broadcast. And then a little bit later down the line, things got even more interesting when they brought out Brandon Curry, William Bonac, Hadi Chupin, and Big Ramy all at the same time. Now, the noteworthy part about that, I really think, was the fact that Big Ramy came out on stage and weighed himself on stage in front of the crowd, in front of the cameras. And Bob Ciccarello looked at the weight, and he says that Ramy was weighing 305 pounds. Now, keep in mind, Ramy steps on stage tomorrow, so there's still time to lose some water weight. And you've also got the fact that Ramy was fully dressed here. He was wearing a complete suit, dress shoes. That's going to add a couple of pounds. That much clothing on that big of a dude, that's a lot of clothes. That's a lot of fabric. So I would say, realistically, Ramy is probably right around 300 pounds. I wouldn't say that Ramy is really... I wouldn't say he's going to be 305 on stage by any stretch of the imagination. And I think in all likelihood, by the time he steps on stage, he will be under 300 pounds. So this number of 305, I still think is less than usual, even though I think they use that segment as kind of a tool to emphasize how big Ramy actually is. I think it was actually a good sign from the conditioning standpoint of Ramy, because I think that is a lighter version of Ramy. Ramy fully dressed the day before, weighing 305, I think it's a light version of Ramy, which is crazy to say that someone over 300 pounds, that's light. But there's been years in the past where I believe he weighed 315 the day before. But my prediction at this point is that Ramy is going to repeat. He's going to defend his title. I think he's going to come in shape again. I think he's going to come in good enough shape to defend and repeat. And I think Ramy is going to be the two-time champion this year. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of the banter between all these guys. Let's take a look at some of this banter from the press conference.
Is it me or did it get cold in here all of a sudden?
You feel that?
Gotta be you.
Are you feeling that, guys?
Here's the question. Can Winter come twice at the Olympia?
For sure. Yeah, with all my respect for my friends, because I know how is that hard for everyone, but I'm working very hard to beat myself, and I did that.
I'll say this, Big Ramy, what you brought last year was enough. And you said Winter is coming in that press conference, and you brought it on stage with all due respect to these great champions right here. But can you duplicate or be better than last year?
That's what I work all the year. I'm working to let my fans around the world, because you need to see Ramy better than last year, and they did that 100%.
See you tomorrow. Yes, size don't mean nothing, man. Let's see what you got there under the cloak.
Yeah. Everyone.
So tomorrow we will see the talk which you have here now. We will see if the weight can help you on stage.
Yeah.
But, we all got our plans and our packages. The key is to stand out on stage, and we know size alone doesn't make you stand out on stage. It's finer details of bodybuilding that makes this sport great. And that's what we're looking to see on tomorrow.
I'm going to beat him again.
Last word, big man. Last word.
Guys, Winter is coming tomorrow.
Now, next up in the news, let's take a look at Iain Valliere's latest picture. This is one day out from having to step on stage. This is awesome. I think it's so awesome that we're in this kind of era of social media that so many of these guys are willing to post. These physique updates at just days out from the show, or even 24 hours from stepping on stage. I think it's really impressive, and I think we as fans should be incredibly grateful that these guys are willing to put themselves out there to this extent. I think it's really cool. It really does a great service for the fans, and even though me and Iain don't seem to get along, and Iain doesn't really seem to like me, I think Iain looks really good here, and I'm still going to go ahead and stand by my top 6 prediction for Iain. I really think that he looks good here. He looks on track. He looks like he looked right before the other 2 shows that he won. The judges really like Iain's physique. He scores very well at these shows. And I think as long as he's on point to where he is at these other 2 shows, these other 3 shows, the Arnold, Texas, and Tampa, I have a feeling they're going to be looking at Iain as a first call-out guy. And like I said in my last video, there's only 2 other guys that won 2 shows going into this Olympia. And that was James winning the UK show and the Europa Spain, and then, of course, Nick Walker with the best 2 wins out of everybody, I'd say, the Arnold Classic and the New York Pro. So that is the latest there from Iain Valliere. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Where do you guys have Iain placing in this year's Olympia lineup? Is it going to be higher or lower than my prediction of 6th? Now, here's another physique update from a guy that I really like in the 212 division, Nathan Epler from Indiana, posting this physique update at one day out. One of the guys that really brings conditioning in that division and really brings quite a good shape for a 212 guy. He might not be the biggest, but he does bring a very aesthetic package to the 212 stage in a division where a lot of these guys can wind up being blockier because they are shorter and they got to meet that weight cap, so they try to maximize the amount of muscle on their frame. But I think Nathan he's done a pretty good job of balancing, having a good amount of muscle for that category, but also having a pleasing physique to look at. Small waist, V-taper, the whole 9. And this update, he looks like he's in really good shape, and he could be a potential, dare I say, first call-out guy. I really think likely he's going to be top 10, somewhere in the 6 to 10 range, probably not top 6. But I don't want to discourage him either. It's entirely possible that he could crack that top 6. And with that, man, there's really not that much more left to say. I mean, we're going to get a good look at all these guys tomorrow for prejudging. And it is what it is. No more physique updates. We're not going to need to be discussing or speculating. We're going to know after prejudging how these guys look and probably get a rough idea of who's placing worse. I'm going to leave you guys with this photo of the whole group at the athletes check-in for the Olympia. And while I know there's kind of a dark cloud hovering over the Olympia weekend because George Peterson passed away prior to the show, let's try not to forget about George, but also let's try to enjoy the weekend. It's still the Olympia, and all these guys are doing exactly what George wanted to do. They've been preparing for this all year. This is their moment. They've been working hard for this. They're stepping on stage, and they need our support. They need the support from the fans. So make sure you guys buy that live stream. Don't stream it illegally. That's money that goes back into the Olympia. That's money that goes back into the prize money. It supports the athletes to buy these streams. So watch the show. Stay tuned. Get excited. Get into it. Have your buddies over. Have some drinks. And let's all just enjoy the Super Bowl of bodybuilding together this weekend. Give this video a thumbs up if you're excited for the Olympia. Give this video a thumbs up if you're enjoying all the Olympia content that I've been putting up. And as always, subscribe if you haven't already. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power, signing out.